What's up, everybody? It's LG Doucette here, and welcome to the Milk Road Degen podcast, the twice weekly show that instantly red pills you to something you just cannot unsee. I'm your host, LG, and today we're joined by Luca Netz, the man who took over Pudgy Penguins and turned them into an industry juggernaut. You've definitely heard of this. And if you haven't, well, this is definitely the red pill moment. He has his sights set on the layer 2 market now with Abstract, but he's managing both brands. He's got Abstract, he's got Pudgies, he's tying them together. And today we're going to talk through that and why I really want to ask him why he chose to do all this, because this guy, he didn't have to go and pick up Pudgy Penguins and get into NFTs and get into crypto. But we're going to dive into that as well as what his longer term plan is beyond all the stuff that's coming in the short term. Before we get started, I also want to remind you that we have Milk Road Degen has a pro tier with a pro report that comes out on Fridays, a Discord chat where I actually spend most of my time now, and people challenge my assumptions, which is really good, as well as post signals for things that we are trading at the time, especially in a market like today. I think that kind of stuff's really valuable, both the community and the signals and the weekly report. So that's Milk Road Degen Pro, and you can subscribe. Check out the links below. And today's episode is brought to you by Fun Token, powering the next wave of Web3 gaming and decentralized innovation. Yo, Luca, what's up, man?
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, dude, this is a long time coming. I've been curious to talk to you for a really long time. But first, we've had a theme. This is only our 4th episode, and we've had a theme so far on every episode. I need to know, since you use your real name, same as I do you have any nicknames that you either still use or that you had prior to crypto? Is there we just need to know, or what was your first internet username? Anything. We just need to know what could have been the handle, if not Luca.
It's actually super ironic and hilarious. I think you'd appreciate this, but my childhood nickname was Big Bird.
No, really?
Because I'm super tall, and my dad told me I moved like Big Bird from Sesame Street, the way that I had maneuvered around. So Big Bird, ironically enough, you can actually see a lot of early social posts from 2018, 2019. Big Bird was my moniker. And it turned out I just became the Big Bird over at Pudgy Penguins. How funny is that?
Dude, so your dad was the one to coin that? He
Yeah.
started using that?
Yeah.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'7".
That's definitely a Big Bird height.
Yeah, and you're clumsy too. So when as a teenager, I'm going through that growth spurt, and you're just moving all wonky, right? I was way too big for my body, it felt like.
What age did you have the growth spurt? Because a lot of men, boys, it's like a delayed growth spurt, right? Like the girls get tall first, and then the boys are still like shrimps until ninth grade or something like that. Were you early or were you late?
I was always decently tall, and then 16, 18, I just had to have put 10 inches on, and just my knees were just an unbearable pain. I remember vividly. So yeah.
Did you play sports? You must have played basketball or football.
Yeah, soccer, basketball. I was an athlete.
Okay.
My biggest regret, just because I'm a competitor, I wish I really understood the gravity of sports and being a professional athlete. And I think I really wish I would have just really understood what that meant. I think I could have took it super seriously. And I think just the way that I know myself, my heart, my tenacity, obviously I have the physical build to kind of do that. I would have totally played professional sports.
Which sport? If you could go back and you were committed at 13, you're I'm going all in on this sport. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it to the pro level. What would that be?
Today, if you were to ask me that, I would have done basketball, knowing everything that I know. But I was an elite soccer player. So I was like the Ibrahimovic. So soccer was actually the sport that I excelled in the most, that I played in the most, that I had the most success in. And probably the most likely that if I was probably the most naturally gifted at soccer, and I probably would have been like an Ibrahimovic style forward, even though I played sweeper.
Is 6'7" tall for a soccer player? I think so.
Super
I think
tall.
most of them are super tall. So you maybe
Yeah,
a Peter Crouch.
Ibrahimovic because he's the one big guy. He's the one guy with a similar build to me, and so he would just beat people up in the front lines.
Would you be as cocky as he is?
Totally. I mean, I'm just a super confident person, right? So I don't know any other mindset, if I'm being frank. I feel like if I'm not super cocky and confident, then I'm on the super opposite side of the pendulum, and that's not very productive.
Would you ever see yourself, because you're in your mid-20s, correct? Yeah. Would you ever see yourself like, okay, you've had all these businesses and like 20 years down the line, you're like in your 40s and you become like a pro at like a different sport, because obviously it's hard to be a pro in your 40s in soccer, but like I'm just saying, because I saw a clip the other day that Rajon Rondo now plays like pro flag football and is like the highest rated quarterback in the US of pro flag football, and I'd watched like a highlight reel of him like throwing like all these shovel passes and like hucking it downfield. Like would that be like, okay, I gotta just take a break from being an entrepreneur for a bit, I'm gonna go do like be like a top pickleball player or something?
I thought of that. I thought of that recently. I don't know if I'd pursue, if I were to pursue being a pro in a sport, I'd want to be a pro in one of the top sports, and I'd have to like stop everything I'm doing right now, and like while I still could get, an inkling of my prime in.
Hmm.
Um, but but I think just in general, playing sports and joining, I think a lot of people think sports kind of ends if you don't go pro by your mid-20s, then you're done playing sports. But I think there's this like new wave of just like rec leagues for 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds that I think is super healthy.
Mm,
Playing sports is, I think, really important for people's mental health. I think it teaches people
mm,
how to win. I
mm,
encourage everybody listening who has kids. I think sports was the best thing that ever happened to me in my childhood. It
mm,
taught me to hate losing. It taught me to love winning. It taught me to work with others. It taught me perspective because if we traveled, we were good. So we would travel across the country and across the state. It built camaraderie. It just you started to build relationships. Just everything that comes with you're healthy, right? Everything that comes with playing sports has nothing but a net positive and a net impact, I think, on people. I'm the biggest sports maxi out there. And more than just watching it, I just think everybody should just find something to do on a weekly basis that's team oriented that you can go and kind of decompress on.
do you find a lot of time to play your current entrepreneur lifestyle?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I make so I used to do this thing where 7 days a week, just wanted to outwork everybody, and then so I
Mm,
subsequently thought though, while doing that for a couple of years, I got pretty miserable,
mm,
and then so I started to take care of myself a little bit on Friday and Saturdays. My outputs become exponentially better, right? My
mm.
thought process become exponentially better, and I'm less miserable. And my Friday and Saturdays are for 2 hours on each respective day is dedicated to basketball or pickleball, respectively. And I'm healthier. I feel better. My mental health is
Nice.
better. So just highly recommend, man.
Do the people that you play with, do they know what you do for a living?
Oh, they're all the company
Oh, it's
people.
all company people.
They're
Okay,
all in
okay, okay.
crypto. We run tech runs in Miami on
Okay,
basketball
okay,
and pickle, and
okay.
it's
That's
all the
good.
same
If it's
cohort of
team,
people.
okay, okay, okay. If it's like team based, that's good. Yeah, because I live like in a small community. I play like beer league hockey, and these guys, like half the guys, literally work at like the mill. So if I like, I don't even when they're like, "What do you do?" And I most of the time I just make something up because I'm like, I don't even. They're just gonna not even understand, or they're gonna like ask me for a financial. This is not gonna go the right way. So I'm just like, I don't want to talk about it. But if you have like a community of people that you already work with, then I think that's ideal. So good on you. Okay, one more question about sports, then we'll actually talk about the products you're building. That's a good segue. You have developed partnerships for Pudgy Penguins with NASCAR, 7-Eleven, Walmart. NASCAR, I'm assuming, is probably not is like you didn't say race car driver in your answer. Is there like a league or a player or like a sports figure of some kind beyond NASCAR? NASCAR is awesome. Um, that you were like that would be your holy grail. Like I don't know who like not Russell
In
Westbrook. I know it's the
sports,
first player that comes
Brady
to
and
mind.
Jordan, because I think we're the
Hmm.
I think this team, I think we are the Patriots of NFTs and memes and culture and
Hmm.
crypto, or the Chicago Bulls of NFTs and memes and crypto. And so if I were to align myself with the best athlete, it'd be either Messi, Brady, or Jordan, the three respective champs in the three biggest sports in the world. And then obviously tennis. Who's that? Alvarez. He's number one, right now, or it's probably Djokovic or something. But I would just align myself with the number ones. Whoever's the number one in
Nice.
their respective sports, I'd want to include them in.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I like the winning mentality, man. Can you tell me, can you like maybe just backtrack a little bit because I'm curious about this. I know you were deep in you developed a large Shopify business, and that was kind of like your first, or at least from what we know, your first major business endeavor. I'm curious how you transitioned from that to crypto and NFTs and went from like launching Shopify's businesses to all the way down to buying this cute and cuddly brand and doing what you've done with it so far. Like, how do you, I just want to know what that like flow through was, especially now that we already know kind of your mindset.
Yeah, I think my career was made monetizing social influence, right? So I was basically going to influencers and building products and brands around them to basically,
Mm,
I kind of realized that millions of followers do not mean millions of dollars, and I wanted to close that gap for them via products, right? Pudgy Penguins is very much an influencer with none of the cons of an influencer, which means none of the attitude, right? Because it's all just a personality game with these influencers. So when you think about it, like what is my function as a entrepreneur building enterprise value around Pudgy Penguins, right? Like I'm trying to monetize the influencer and create virality around the influencer, right? And so how I made my career was very much these two things. The next one was then Von Dutch, which was bringing something back, right? Von Dutch was a dead clothing brand that had a big moment in the early
mm,
2000s. In 2020, I brought it back. It was the hottest clothing brand in the world for that year.
mm,
Pudgy Penguins was very much a comeback story, right? So I brought it back. And then my last business before this was a company called Gel Blaster, North America's fastest growing toy company, zero to $100 million in sales in
right.
14 months. What was Pudgy Penguins' first great success? The toy business, right? Walmart, Target, 10,000 retailers. So if you actually like, we won't get into the story of Pudgy, but it very much is
Yeah.
one I think that's predicated around divine intervention. And if you actually think about my history and think about what it took for me to get here, it's actually pretty insane to think that like every business before this led me to do this business successfully, right? Whether it's monetizing social influence, which is Pudgy, bringing something back, which is Pudgy, or building a toy business that is hugely successful, which is Pudgy. Um, Pretty fascinating to say the least.
What? I agree. Were there any other considerations? Because Pudgies were like in a very particular spot where they'd hit such like a social climax, but then leadership was not really, ready to continue.
Nope, 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 no other considerations. Pudgy was it. Pudgy
Hmm.
Penguins, if you close your eyes, you can see and picture and envision $1 billion brand. Pudgy Penguin, the character, is the most universal. It is the most mimetic. People love
Mm,
penguins. Penguin characters are up there with dogs and cats, yet nobody owns the penguin character from a brand perspective. The community, at the end of the day, you see this all the time. I was talking to a big investor the other day who invested in a bunch of other NFT projects other than Pudgy. And, he was talking about it and he was like, kind of talking to himself and just saying like, I tell a lot of my founders to do what you guys are doing, and some of them do, and one of their founders was actually complaining to him and saying like, yo man, like we are doing what Pudgy is doing, like why don't we have the same effect, and why doesn't it translate the same way?
mm,
Well, there's probably a couple of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons I think is the community is just not Chads, right? So they have these community members who got lucky buying into this, NFT project that appreciated in price and is one of their only big wins. The Pudgy community prior to my acquisition consisted of the most influent and important crypto traders, crypto founders, and crypto executives in the entire industry, right? So when we win, this isn't their only win. This isn't their like this isn't the thing that they're counting on to succeed,
mm,
right? The big portion of the user base has won many times over. And so as they see things that they like, they keep building conviction, and that reflects into floor price and price appreciation and gets the community excited. But, the cohort that's a part of this group is a completely different cohort that's a part of any other NFT project, right? It is a very different cohort, and that cohort is hugely responsible for us succeeding, right? Because we can do things and we can do things the right way. And to be frank, there are some NFT projects that do things the right way, but they don't have the right holder base. And I was very lucky, or I was actually very strategic in why this was the project to buy, that being one of the most important reasons, right? Like if I were to put it to three pillars was community was Giga Chads, IP was magical, right? You either have magic or you don't. And three, I knew where I could take it. I can envision the end state of it, which is pretty easy. If you can envision the end state of something, you just work backwards.
What is
Um,
the end? What is the end state?
a global franchise that hundreds of millions of people know and love, movies, TV shows, products across all categories, all over the world. A brand that people know and love and share with friends and family members and significant others and things, a character that makes people smile and makes people feel good, right? A story that, kind of symbolizes David and Goliath and that anybody can do what they put their mind to. And no matter the adversity or no matter what's in front of you, you can always come back and you can come back bigger, better, and stronger. And so just a brand that's all encompassing around that, a franchise that's all encompassing around that.
What kind of movie would you make?
An
Or are you
animated,
making?
an animated underdog epic story of it would be an animated series, a Pixar like film.
I feel like Pudgies would just make their own. I feel like the way you're describing this, like you would just make your own Netflix or your own Pixar as well. Like I feel like you want to align with being the number ones and like the goats of everything. I feel like you would just go and become one of those. But maybe
Yeah,
that's
I
not what,
mean,
what you have in mind.
so I try to do things that make sense, and like
Mhm.
we're trying to aim as big as possible. I think it's going to be a chronological process. I think we will build up to things. I think right now the Igloo has a lot on its plate, and I think there's no room to kind of add any more. And I think we have to get the job done with what's right in front of us, which is make Pengu the number one meme coin in the world, separate our NFT collection from the pack. I think we're still too close to the next person, just figuring all we've accomplished and all the odds we've defied over the last couple of years.
Mhm.
And then obviously making abstract the de facto, newest and greatest blockchain. So we got a lot of things to win there. But I mean, 10 years from now, how big can you take this? You can make this pretty big. Definitely something that's worth, close to $100 billion. It's possible. But I'm also pretty pragmatic, and I look at what's right in front of me, and I kind of adjust my bullishness based on the progress we make on a monthly and quarterly basis on what is actually possible. Right now, I think we've got a pretty straight shot to building a $10 billion company. I think it's very clear on how to get there. I think it's our game to lose. I think we can do it. I think the odds and the probability are likely that we will do it. $100 billion company, I think, is a whole different ballgame.
What when you say 10 billion, do you mean the token valuation or do you mean the valuation of the company? How do you
I
define
would
that?
say I would say the ecosystem in its entirety is on a straight shot to 10 billion bucks. Yeah, and I think the enterprise that is Pudgy Penguins is on a straight shot to being a 10 figure business as well.
Web3 gaming is booming, and one token is powering the next wave, Fun. With 100K holders worldwide, Fun is already fueling engagement across AI tools, rewards, and 40 plus upcoming games in 2025, audited by CertiK with an AA Skynet score and listed on Binance, HTX, and Poloniex. Fun is built on trust and adoption. Now, with the launch of Fun 100X Foundation, 10 million is going back to the community, funding DAOs, dApps, and a governance for the future of decentralized gaming. So discover how Fun is shaping Web3 at milkroad.com/fun.
What single strategy would you say has been most effective to grow the Pudgy brand out of everything that you guys have done, that you specifically have done? And it could be like the gifts, it could be anything, but and I love what you're describing, but I want to know, what do you think since you've taken over?
The
What
gifts,
has been
hands
the
down.
biggest
It
driver?
is the
Okay.
gifts is the greatest IP memetic proliferation distribution channel of all time. It looks super menial. Some people de facto think it's a vanity metric, or that there's no meaningful conversion. And there's truth in the fact that there's no meaningful conversion, right? Like a billion views on Giphy versus a billion views on YouTube. Like one drives completely different outcomes. But there's a huge difference in understanding the brand, right? Pudgy Penguins is here to become the face of crypto, which means the face of memes, the face of NFTs, and the face of culture on chain. This is a cultural behemoth in how it distributes and how people communicate on the internet. And in a world where attention is basically accruing value to these assets, it is the most powerful distribution channel for any IP in memes and NFTs within crypto. It is the most important channel. And it's funny because I've been saying this for years and nobody's even close to catching up, and nobody's really even trying that hard on this, which is so strange, because especially now that you see that watermark, if you go to those GIFs, there's a Pengu watermark on every GIF. So understand the convergence. As this thing just keeps getting 1 billion views a day or 500 million views a day, whatever it is, right? As it continues to get that viewership, well, you can barely see it there because the blue is. But with Pengu being like the center of the ecosystem, having those gifts and that distribution is a super meaningful tie-in. I think, again, like at the end of the day, like what are meme coins? Like they're memes, right? And so none of the memes today are really memes. Pudgy Penguins is unequivocally the meme coin because it has the most directly attributable, momentum and impression cadence out of anything that is quote unquote a meme coin today. It's not even close. And so as long as I just know if we just keep doing that for the next 5 years, that alone will make Pudgy Penguins win in a significant way.
Why would you, with such a grand vision for Pudgies, why would you go and start a new project with Abstract?
Because I think ultimately everyone starts and wants to do what Pudgy Penguins is doing, and yet they're going and doing and accruing that value to other ecosystems. And it's my job as a founder to make sure that our ecosystem and our community accrues the most value, right? Like it makes no sense to write a playbook for somebody to then go bring that playbook to another ecosystem and to benefit them. And I also think there's a huge opportunity in blockchains, right? The same opportunity we saw in NFTs, it's the same opportunity we see in blockchains, which is I just don't think people are doing it right. There is something to be said about, oh, well, that's a lot on your plate. Well, it's important to note we acquired Frame, right? So that has its own independent team with its own independent balance sheet, with its own independent momentum and leadership structure and org structure. It's not like I'm or the whole entire Pudgy team is working on Abstract all day. It has its own team and leadership. So it's very much, the Igloo's a holding company. Pudgy Penguins is where it's all started. It's where my focus is, and obviously the Pudgy team's focus is. And we've incubated and helped stand up an amazing team in Abstract that is, killing it every single day.
What I understand the part about like accruing value, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But how do you define success for something like Abstract?
It has to be based in Abstract on the Ethereum L2 side. And that has to be the only 2 L2s with mindshare. And eventually I think we're going to have to make a swing at beating base and ultimately just competing with all the top blockchains in the world. But I think it's just about which blockchain has the most momentum, the most traction, and the most progress. And that's kind of how we're thinking of it.
So if you wanted to accrue to Abstract, you guys also launched Pengu cross-chain as well, right? Mm-hmm. Explain to me a little bit more the intention there.
So Abstract wasn't live when we launched Pengu, and I knew Pengu had to go out when it went out. The whole sprint from basically saying we're going to do it to launching it was 5 weeks. If anyone who's ever launched a token of that magnitude, it's probably one of the most impressive things we've ever done. True masterclass in just like every facet, basically start to finish. And I'm actually glad we didn't launch it on Abstract, because I think even today, I don't think people understand the infrastructure, the players involved needed to make a launch that's that big successful. Like, mind you, there was minutes where we were testing the bandwidth of the Solana chain and the infra on Solana, right? Like Solana, was able to handle it, but by a margin, right? A net new chain will never be able to handle something like that. And so I'm super thankful that Abstract wasn't live. I mean, the thought process wasn't I didn't even know that to be a variable, other than, Abstract's not live and we need to launch this now. And this is where all the money and all the consumer adoption at the time was happening on Solana. And ultimately, you're not going to launch anything on mainnet ETH because the experience is bad. The fees are too high. And we weren't going to launch it on another L2 because we were building an L2. And so Solana was like the obvious place, and they have a great ecosystem, a great community, great technology, great foundation. So it just seemed like the right partner. In hindsight, after knowing what I know now and Abstract being live for 6 months, I'm thankful we didn't launch it on Abstract, because it's a whole different type of, you need 10 different third parties to make that type of launch success. Before Trump, it was the highest DEX volume day of all time on the chain, right? Biggest airdrop from a unit basis perspective. We gave away $1.5 billion to people, 50+% of the token supply. You've never seen that. I don't think you've ever seen a distribution that big ever from a token. But I also knew that Pudgy Penguins is for the people, by the people. It is crypto underdog story. It is, I think, the story of crypto almost personified into this one character. It had to be one that, its origin story, at least in my opinion, had to be one that was full of generosity and full of giving, which is ultimately what, Pengu was, the most generous airdrop this cycle by Texas Smile.
What triggered you guys dropping Pengu then if it wasn't planned?
Trump being elected.
Right.
Trump got elected on the 7th. My dog died that night. I mourned the next day. I walked into the office on the 9th and I said, we're launching Pengu.
I'm sorry about your dog.
Appreciate that.
Abstract. Okay, thanks for explaining all that why you guys didn't launch there. And it sounds like that makes a lot of sense. How do you lead to brands? Like, I think that's something I'm curious about, because I think from an outside perspective, I understand how you're trying to like accrue the value back to Abstract, but Abstract also has like clearly a much grander vision, right? Like you want to be up there with Base competing. So that in itself is a very different, to me, a very different mission than driving Pengu to being this, massive global brand, right? Being this massive consumer brand. Abstract, like you're talking, something far more technical to get into those, to get into that running with Base. So how do you wear both caps, and how do you manage that?
Well, Abstract's led by a guy named Saigar. He's the CEO. So he's one of the most brightest technical minds that I've ever met.
Yeah.
And I think everyone should be super concerned if I'm ever the CEO of a blockchain, because technicals and being a technical leader is not my strong suit by any means. I think you just hear me champion it and you hear me discuss it, and I'm mainly the main vocal point. Saigar's not doxxed, right? And I understand everything that's going on in that business, kind of because, Saigar, myself, and a couple others basically conceptualized the whole idea together and kind of, helped form that vision together. And I have good visibility into everything that's going on. And obviously I'm at the helm of the Igloo, which obviously owns Abstract. So I'm the best person to champion it and vocalize it. And so from the organization to the people, it may seem that way, but internally, that entire ship is ran by Saigar.
Why Saigar?
So Saigar was the lead CTO at Frame. I think a blockchain needs a blockchain CEO needs to be a technical lead, in my opinion. Needs to have a deep understanding at a minimum. And I think he just has not only a deep understanding of the technicals of it, I think he has a deep understanding of the vision. I think he's a super bright entrepreneur. I think he has all the trust of all the people at the organization. And when you acquire something like Frame, you're acqui-hiring, really, right? A lot of the Frame tech stack did not move over. And so that was kind of always the plan and the strategy.
Okay. That makes sense. I like that explanation. What do you? I mean, maybe it's more of a Saigar question, and maybe that's the next guest we can have at some point, even if he's undoxed. What does it take for something like Abstract to get up there with Base, right? And I don't know, if looking from like a TBL perspective, there's still a long way to go. But maybe from a user perspective, obviously a lot of people are starting to use Abstract. They're generating XP, they're trading meme coins, trying the apps. How do you close that gap?
Apps make chains. Chains don't make apps. And so we're going to need a great app ecosystem. We're going to need an amazing ethos and why people come. I think that ethos is going to be fun, and because people have fun. And I ultimately believe that we're going to have to fix and build the best consumer interface, right? I think the consumer journey is broken. So if we can fix the consumer journey and we can make the best singular interface and point of contact for a chain's ecosystem, pair that with an app ecosystem that is bar none in terms of what it does, which is give people fun applications they spend their time and discretionary spending on. And then you pair that with all the momentum and awareness that we have today. I mean, that's the recipe to success. And it's going to take a little bit of time, right? Like the one thing I learned is Pudgy is easier to brute force because it's really a character that just needs marketing. And so marketing is very transactional. It cannot be, but you can almost like create a lot of hype and awareness, if I decide to one morning. Abstract has a lot of variables that just all need to kind of come to place. It kind of feels like Pangea, reverse Pangea, right? So, they all just kind of have to retract right back into that nucleus. But there's a lot of different continents that have to come together in that reverse Pangea. So that's how I would look at it. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some energy. It's going to take some money and some vision and some big builds and some sleepless nights. But we've been doing it now for 6 months. We're committed, and I think we're totally on the right path. I mean, I know it because I know everyone's kind of building in the spirit now that we're building. They're building these central interfaces. They're not going completely general purpose. So I think we're totally in the right spirit.
Do you want people to trade meme coins there? Because meme coins, at least in my communities, people are like super stoked about meme coins. All this lore about all the different characters in Pudgy. That's one of the things you definitely want?
Totally. To me, there's 4 things that are fun in crypto. If I want to be the hub of fun, there's gaming, there's gambling or hyper financialized games, there's trading, and then there's collecting NFTs. Those are the 4 places that I think are the most fun in crypto. And it's definitely a place where I think we're seeing a lot of those different categories of projects thrive.
What are your favorite meme coins that you've seen, like the community spin up?
I love Abster. I love New. I bought a couple. You can go to my wallet and see the ones that I bought. But a lot of the ones on your screen I enjoy.
Yeah, they made one for your dog.
Yeah, they did.
That's really nice. That's really nice. Good job, community. That's really cute. Right on. Okay, so if people wanted to, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of people listening to this that actually don't have any exposure to Abstract or Pengu. What is the way for them? Like, what's the starting point for them? What are the first 2-3 things that they should do to get involved?
Yeah, go to portal.abs.xyz. Sign up, go through the experience. Let me know what you think. I think you'll come to the same conclusion that I did, which is it's the best 0 to 1 in crypto. Send it to a friend or a family member. It's different. I think you'll play around with the applications, and I think you'll come to the same conclusion that I will, or that I have, which is, this thing is fun. It's different. It's curated well. And if you're interested in Pudgy Penguins, get your feet wet or your beak wet with some Pengu, and then make your way up to some NFTs once you've kind of inserted yourself in the community and started to have some fun. That's probably how I would index those next steps for community members.
And then collect some XP for what?
I think XP is just a good way to kind of see who's doing what. And ultimately, I think we're the most generous ecosystem of the cycle, right? Like more people made money off Pengu than they did 1 year, 2 years farming chains or farming ecosystem projects. So I think you're just going to have to assume that, XP will lead to something that will, matter and be meaningful for people on the other side.
Is that something for Abstract? Is that something that you would also wait for a defining moment like you did for Pengu? Is there this thing has to happen, the market has to look like this, or is it you have something else?
The chain has to win. We don't need to launch another multi-billion-dollar token just because we have that. And obviously Pengu needs to go a lot further. We're only going to launch that token if we're winning, and it's clear that we're winning. And if you don't like that, you don't like that. It doesn't really bother me, but I'm in the business of winning and accruing the most value to the people who believe in me. And I'm not going to do something because somebody wants me to do something. I'm going to do something because I know it's in the best interest of our community. I know it's in the best interest of this company. I haven't led anyone astray for the last couple of years. That will never change. But I'm going to do what's in the best interest of everyone else, whether they know it's in their best interest or not. I know it's in their best interest because nobody else is staring at the stuff the way that I am. dream about sleep. I can't fall asleep at night because I'm just thinking about blockchains and NFTs and tokens. And I'm confident that nobody's spending as much time thinking about this stuff than me.
If you were on the Michael Jordan timeline for this stuff of like, in the 80s, regularly losing the playoffs, is not the right team, it hasn't grown enough, but then 3 championships, big break in the middle, another 3 championships. Where are you on that? Where's your whole thing?
We're in the beginning of the 3rd season. I won 2 championships already. Anyone who thinks
2
otherwise,
championships.
Yeah, I 100% won 2 championships already.
What are the 2 championships? What
I would
what are those?
say defying the last couple of years of NFT hell and doing what nobody else was able to do, which is like create something real and tangible, a business that's self-sustaining, not having to mint or extract from my community at any point, right? Doing it all the right way, and Walmart being the culmination of that first championship. The second one would be Pengu, the launch of Pengu, the lead up to it, that whole year, championship number 2. And we're about to get championship number 3, quarter 4.
Do we know what that is?
No, nobody knows yet, but championship number 3 is coming.
So there's champion. Okay, that's the code. That's the code for whatever you're gonna do. Is championship number 3, man. I love that. Okay, man. I want to wrap up. I feel like you've already given us like a ton of insight and good alpha. Is there anything else you want to tell us about the brand or yourself, or anything else that we haven't heard, or something maybe that you've never told anybody on any of these podcasts, all the interviews you do? You already told us the Big Bird part.
I did tell you.
We got some pretty good stuff there.
I can tell you that I think there's I can tell you to download Pudgy Party on the App Store. And download Pudgy Party on the App Store. And I think everyone listening, when you download that game, and if you play it for 15, 20 minutes, it's free. I think you're going to come to the same conclusion that I have, and I think a lot of other people have, which is that's a crypto game. That's a Web3 game built on Web3 rails. This is just, it's a best in class brand. I think the first ever true mass market breakout brand and IP and character within crypto. And I think when you play that game, I think you'll really understand the quality. Yep.
That's it.
I think you'll really understand the quality of what we're building. And so please download that, share that to a friend. It's our first swing at a franchise product. Hold me accountable, but that game's going to have millions of downloads, and I think it's going to onboard more people into crypto than anything else from a culture or IP perspective this cycle.
Show off your waddle. Are you like it's like, I feel like there's a correlation between Big Bird and penguins. I feel like there's this very parallel, you're like the king penguin. That's what Big Bird moved on from Sesame Street and became a penguin. I feel like that's what happened. Luca, thank you so much for your time, man. It's been great having you, and it would be great to have you back Q4, whenever that thing is. We'd love a little exclusive there. And otherwise, wish you the best and everything coming up.
See you guys. Thank you for having me.
Want updates from the trenches alongside the tokens we're trading? Sub to our channel, then join the Milk Road Degen and Degen Pro newsletters. This show's for educational purposes only. Nothing we say is financial advice. Investing is risky. Never invest more than you can afford to lose.